What's up, everyone? How you doing? In this video, I want to share much love to the Nintendo Virtual Boy. Now, in this video, I'm also going to mention the top 5 games I recommend that you must own for the Virtual Boy. And you probably think to yourself, are there even 5 games for the system? Can you even think of 5 games for the system? You wouldn't be too far off, honestly. There's only 14 that were released in North America, 22 in total. 8 of those were exclusive to Japan. What's really cool, it is region free, so all the Japanese games will work on North American units and vice versa. This is my original one I had in 1995. I went launch day, grew up in Seattle, Washington. Headquarters Redmond, Washington for Nintendo. So Nintendo growing up for me was a huge presence. I had friends actually play tested, growing up in middle school, high school, etc. that actually were play testers for Nintendo. And I remember hearing about the Virtual Boy when it first came out. Now keep in mind, this is in the mid 90s and virtual reality was huge. And that was supposed to be the next big thing. Virtual reality didn't really take its full form until I suppose the Oculus came out decades later, right? The Virtual Boy is probably the closest thing we got on a budget scale to virtual reality. The thing is awkward to play, I'll be honest. The best way to play is to lay back, put it lay against your head when you're laying back on your back. Otherwise, you slouch over. It's not really portable. Is it considered a handheld? Is it considered a console? I don't know. But there are some gems for the system, believe it or not. So I'm going to start with number 5. And go from there. Let me know what you guys think, and thanks for watching. Okay, number 5 on my list is a game called Mario Clash. This is by Nintendo, and this is kind of a spiritual successor to Mario Brothers, the arcade game. Not to be confused, not to be mistaken with Super Mario Brothers. And Super Mario Brothers, we all know, we all love, many of us do anyway, and should. But Mario Brothers was a game that kind of overshadowed, and honestly, a great arcade game poured over to the NES and other consoles, of course. But Mario Clash was kind of a spiritual successor to it because it plays in very, very similar fashion to Mario Brothers, right? But Mario Clash is what they call a stereoscopic viewpoint. You can see the background, the foreground, and you can throw things across. And the same premise as Mario Brothers, the arcade, where you have to jump on, or you have to basically defeat turtles and other enemies and kind of clear the stage by throwing turtle shells and all that. But what's really cool, you can throw turtle shells across, and it looks really cool in 3D. I definitely dig it, and the graphics are a lot of fun. So that's number 5 on my list. Number 4 on my list is a game that was produced by a third party. It is called Jack Brothers and came out by Atlas, which Atlas has an incredible record for making some great games, and love the publisher Atlas. It's awesome. They're awesome. But Jack Brothers was the only game they released for the Virtual Boy. This game, unfortunately, is super expensive today for the Virtual Boy if you want to pick up a copy. But if you're lucky enough to have a copy or see a copy for a reasonable price, definitely check it out. It plays top down, and the goal is kind of it's a puzzle game. You have to clear stages by collecting keys and defeating enemies. And when you defeat a stage, you kind of drop down to the next lower stage, and they get progressively larger and more difficult. And it's kind of there's a lot of puzzle and maze elements to it as well. You choose between 4 different Jack Brothers. It's got a Halloween theme to it as well. Music's great. Graphics are a lot of fun. I love the 3D perspective. They take really good use of the 3D, and that's what a lot of these games did. They definitely used the 3D. And I think Nintendo, on a side note, kind of dropped the ball, because when the 3DS came out, I feel like for the eShop and for the 3DS, they could republish these games for the 3DS and maybe redid them, or at least republish them for the 3DS, and they would have played really well on the 3DS using 3D technology. But they didn't do that. As I said before, Nintendo wants to shove Virtual Boy under the rug. They don't want nothing to do with it, and unfortunately, I don't think we'll ever see these games again. So again, a good reason to have a Virtual Boy, but Jack Brothers is definitely one in your list you should pick up. Number 3 on my list is also kind of an interesting game because it was also third party, and it was only released in Japan, and it's Space Invaders, right? Space Invaders, I think many of us now are familiar with it. It's one of the most iconic arcade games of all time. Taito did an amazing job, but with this particular port for the Virtual Boy, it plays in like a pseudo 3D. It's kind of a slanted scale, and it plays incredibly. There's 2 modes in the game, including arcade mode, and the music's just so iconic, the sound effects. But this game was meant to play in 3D. If you think about Space Invaders Deluxe, right? That was kind of 3D because the arcade had the reflection of the monitor and kind of played in kind of pseudo 3D. And this game definitely takes advantage of that as well. But it's different type of 3D because it's more slanted scale, and it's a lot of fun. Again, a very, very expensive game for the Virtual Boy today. Only released in Japan. That's probably one of the reasons why. But if you're lucky enough to pick up a copy of this, definitely check it out. It is available on emulation for those who can't afford it. And it's still a lot of fun even in 2D. But if you're lucky enough to play it in 3D, it's incredible. That's Space Invaders. Number 2 on my list is, I believe, the only platformer released for the Virtual Boy, and that is Virtual Boy Wario Land, or simply known as Wario Land. This game came out in 1995. Features Wario, of course, who first appeared in Super Mario Land 6 Golden Coins for the Game Boy. This is, I believe, the second one in the series, right? They had Wario Land for the Game Boy. It came out in 1994. That was better known as Super Mario Land 3, Wario Land. What's cool about this platformer, opposed to Mario Brothers platformer, is the upgrades, right? You have these hats. You have this dragon hat, can put out fire, for example. And the 3D is definitely there, but it's subtle. And I think that's a good thing, right? There's things that swing towards you, for example. Only 14 stages, so it is a fairly short platformer, especially when it comes to like Mario Land or Mario Brothers type platformer. So it's a fairly short game. I think that's one knock about it. But the graphics are really good. Controllers are great, despite the controller having 2 D-pads. And it's just a lot of fun to play. But there's 4 boss battles in the game as well. They're a lot of fun. And it's really cool because there's some points where you have to jump to the background or the foreground of the game. And again, it's not over the top 3D, but it's subtle and it's there. I think Nintendo did a great job. Definitely Wario Land is one to own for the Virtual Boy. Number 1 on my list is a game that's classic for the Virtual Boy, and it was a pack-in for the Virtual Boy, and that is Mario Tennis. Mario's Tennis for the Virtual Boy, I think, in my opinion anyway, is probably one of the better Mario's Tennis games out there. Just because it's in 3D, it plays great. There's different characters to choose from. And it's a lot of fun. Now, the idea was to have a link where you could play 2-player, and I don't think that link ever came out for the Virtual Boy where you had a link to play, where you could hook it up to another Virtual Boy and play 2-player. I don't think that ever came out. But still a great game for the tennis. Still, tennis is a great game. It's one that you can pick up relatively cheap today, which is good for the Virtual Boy. So I definitely encourage you guys to check it out because it is kind of common when it came out. So that completes my list of the top 5 Virtual Boy games. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section. Let me know if I missed one or what you guys recommend. There are really some other good games out there too. And there's games that never came out that they were supposed to be planned, right? So I'm reading the back of those box, for example, and it says Wario Cruise. And that game it was promoting on the box, and that game never came out. I think that might have turned into Mario Land. I'm not quite sure. But there are also, I've played prototypes of Mario Kart for the Virtual Boy, which play really cool. And that would have been really awesome to play Mario Kart. You could have done Wave Race for the Virtual Boy. I think F-Zero would have been incredible for the Virtual Boy. There's so many good IPs that Nintendo could have released for the Virtual Boy that unfortunately didn't see the light of day. My favorite game I have that I own, it's a homebrew game, and the homebrew market for the Virtual Boy is actually really strong, really great. It's called Hyper Fighting, aka Street Fighter 2 for the Virtual Boy. So someone took basically the graphics of the Genesis port of Street Fighter 2, poured it over the Virtual Boy, plays in 3D, looks incredible. I did a video on it before, and I simply love it. It's the way to play versus Street Fighter 2 because of the controls, because of the 2 D-pads. It plays incredible. Thank you so much for watching, guys. Thank you for subscribing. That means a lot. We'll see you guys soon. Take care. And of course, game on.